Hey, this is Charles Caldwell, and this is the final video for App Deployment 2. It is at this point that our app is complete. I do currently have a change request pending. I emailed the instructor about it yesterday, and I'm still waiting to hear back. This submission here is based on what the app will be if that change request is approved. I'll speak to those changes when we come to them. Whereas the changes that I requested did remove a couple screens, I don't feel they take away from the core functionality and the app definition. So we'll see that. So actually, let's just jump on the computer and take a look. Okay, so here we are on the computer with our usual setup of Visor and our task items. So first thing you'll notice is we have a launcher icon for our app. So let's click into that, and then there's our screen. Now, the original design for the final app was to have 3 tabs up at top, but with the change request to remove the location services, that made the nearest tab unnecessary at this point. However, I felt the nearest tab did have some essential information on it that was essential to the app definition, which is the app definition is that the user can discover what entree they had when they're at a restaurant last, and that information was on the nearest tab. So I moved it over to the restaurant tab. So now, whereas before we just had the name of the restaurant and how many liked entrees there were, now we also have what the last entree that we had was, which in this case for Applebee's example is the coffee cake, which we'll see right here, and my go-to entree, which would be the cheeseburger. And you can see a go-to entree is not necessary. So those 2 pieces of information are pretty key. So if I was, say I went to Applebee's, I was a user of this app, I went to Applebee's, couldn't remember what I had last, I'd tab over to restaurants, and there it is. I now know what I had last time. Coffee cake, it's a weird entree, but have there. But, you know, and then my go-to entree there is the cheesecake, or the cheeseburger rather. So just to show off the fact that I can switch my go-to, switch that. So now, head over here, we'll see the coffee cake is now my go-to entree. And then we'll actually switch that back. And just as a note, I changed the functionality so that when you click on that star to make that your go-to item, you're only allowed to have 1 go-to item per restaurant. So we also extended the search feature out to the entrees, so that now works. Let's type in, say, taco, and it gives us just a taco salad. So let's see that's working. Close that. The other major thing we did is the restaurants edit screen. So if we go into one of these restaurants, click in the Applebee's, for instance, this up here works. Now, the original design for this, let me actually go over to Trello and show you what the original design was, just as a reminder. Now, as you can see here, the original design was to have a potential address in there that you edit, as well as having a map, so you can actually change the locations on a map. Yeah, I wrote all this in an email in the change request, but just to reiterate a little bit, I felt like after I started getting in and started designing this and working through the functionality of it, it just wasn't working for this particular design. I felt it really needed a much different design. It needed several more screens to really fulfill a good user experience. Because even just looking at this, even though it seems on the surface, it seems like a good design, it's not really once you really start trying to use it. Imagine if you had this on a screen and you tried to scroll up, you're going to end up scrolling the map as opposed to scrolling the entire screen. So you really only be able to scroll up to a certain point. And navigating on this map is not very easy, especially if it focuses in on where you are, but you want to mark the map where you went to eat and say that's like 50 miles away, you got to navigate over that. It was not very good. And then there's the concept, the fact that a restaurant's going to have multiple locations, so multiple addresses. So there's more functionality to deal with that. I'd actually need say a list view of the different addresses as opposed to a single address. So as I kept digging into this and thinking through the user experience, it really just needed a complete overhaul of the design when it came to the restaurant details. So That's why I requested to have that removed. So it kind of seemed kind of simple, or silly, I should say, to have a single text edit field on an entire activity, but we do actually eventually plan on coming back to this and adding more information to be edited on the screen, like say the addresses. And I actually have some ideas as far as additional features that are down the road and different designs. So I do need this activity. That's why. So don't think it's weird that there's one single field on here to be edited. So let's see that this. So even though there's only one field, let's see that it works. So we come back here, Apple Buzz, and we go in here. We'll actually see it changes in all these as well. And if we try to make it nothing, we get a little bit of validation, just letting us know we need to do that. Actually, I like that name, Apple Buzz. Let's keep it like that. And a couple other things we just fixed. We kind of went through getting some bug fixes out of the way, kind of closing. I had a lot of databases left open and were leaking out, so I closed all those. A couple other things is we added a little gradient here, so this text is always able to be read no matter what the picture is up here. Made this button over here a little bit bigger. And then on this edit screen over here, just did things like making these images a little bit smaller, just so they're not taking up the entire screen. So just little things like that may be really small, but I felt really added to the user experience. Now, mentioning the extra files you will find in my project, you'll find a couple extra files. You found the nearest fragment is still in there. Let me show you. See, things like the nearest fragment is still in there, and this is going to be my submission. There's a location database is still in there. The reason I'm keeping those in there is because I do actually plan on coming back and after this class and adding because this is an app I'll use. I'll actually use this. So there's still some functionality I personally would like to add into this, and maybe even release to the Play Store, just to see what kind of feedback I get. So I am going to come back and do this. So I didn't want to remove those files just to submit it. So I wanted to keep those files there. So there'll be a couple files that you'll find that you might be like, why are these in here? They're not doing anything. And they were actually removed in the change request. That's why they're still there, because I do plan on still using those. So I believe that is it. I think that removes the majority of the stress for this particular month. There was a lot of stress involved. I will admit that. The only stress that remains is waiting around to see how this grading turns out. So until another class, thank you for watching.